The final days of Bidenism are upon us. In many ways, tomorrow is the last business day of the Biden administration. Are you feeling all of the nostalgia? No, you're not. You're looking forward to the end of perhaps the most incompetent presidential administration of our lifetime. The Obama administration was uniquely destructive, but Biden's administration was both destructive and idiotic. Not even good at advancing the policies that left-wing Democrats wanted advanced, and they shoved him aside, even though he was an incumbent president. It is an ignominious end to an ignominious presidency. And in many ways, I think it's particularly fitting that you had at the State Department, you might have seen a couple of journalists freaking out and shouting at Anthony Blinken because the Democrats have propped up these lunatics within their base for years. And now reality is dawning on them. And the reality is that Donald Trump is going to be president in just a matter of days. You can pretty much count up the hours now. And all that stuff about, Russia collusion and the insurrection and the fascism and the prosecutions and the impeachments, all for naught. It's all just a giant waste of time. Isn't that amazing? All that stuff they did against Trump. And I'm not even including in this the 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump. But all that the radical left did and the Democrat Party did to stop him was effectively useless in the end, as we shall see. And he's about to take office. But you know what's not going to make Trump and the Trump team particularly sad? Oh, I know. That Michelle Obama is not coming to the inauguration. Oh, no. What are we going to do about that? Michelle Obama's not planning on showing up to the inauguration. She didn't show up to Jimmy Carter's funeral either. Because she doesn't want to, and she doesn't do things she doesn't want to do. This is also why I knew all along, despite what some people were saying, that she was never going to run for president. She likes being a very rich celebrity who does whatever she wants and has people who will worship her no matter what she says or does. Lots of people that fall into that category. She has no interest in like civic duty or anything like that, but it's pretty funny. The New York Post here has a story. Trump team having a good laugh over Michelle Obama's deliberate decision to skip inauguration. Didn't expect her to come anyway. Yeah, of course they didn't. It's supposed to be really cold in D.C. I'm going to be in D.C. for the inauguration because Clay wants to go. So we're both going. And it's going to be very cold. It's currently like a nice, balmy 70 degrees in Miami where I am. And I'm going to be in 20-something degree weather in D.C. So that's going to be a little bit tough. That's going to be a little bit of a rude awakening, but it'll be okay. It's going to be fun. The fact that Michelle Obama is not going to the inauguration is, I'm sure, not a major blow to the hopes and dreams of anybody in Trump world. They didn't think she would come regardless, and sure enough, she is not. And, the pomp and circumstance of inauguration, we'll just have to see how it all shakes out. I, though, think that the Biden administration is going out with a particular whimper, and I think that it's hard for anyone to argue otherwise. There's nothing that Biden can point to that's an accomplishment. The stuff that he did on COVID was all wrong and terrible, and late in the game, too, when we knew a lot more. The fact that he wanted OSHA to have a COVID regulation, remember this? That was going to make every business that had 100 employees or more get COVID shots, or else they were going to have like fines and all these. The whole thing was insane. The whole thing was nuts and so destructive and so wrong. And you look what else. Biden allowed the Democrats to spend a bunch of money on stuff that we shouldn't have spent money on, to raid the Treasury, to run up inflation. Wars broke out abroad because no one's scared of Joe Biden. No one thinks that there was really a commander in chief. And the border was the worst border that we've had in the history of our country. Wide open, total invasion of illegals, millions and millions, 10 million of them came over in 4 years. And it was just a complete debacle. I mean, an absolute mess of an administration with a guy who had dementia who never should have been even running, never mind actually the president. And so the depression that I think Democrats feel, the exuberance and the exhilaration and the excitement that Republicans feel is very much warranted. And the Democrats feeling quite a bit down, they've earned it. And so it's good for them. They should marinate in their sadness because they should be sad. They should never have made Joe Biden president of the United States. Our sponsor here is Preborn. You know, the preborn clinics across our nation remain 100% committed to saving the lives of unborn children. Each location is located in communities where abortion rates are high. They do that on purpose because Preborn wants to be there on the ground, on the front lines to offer an alternative for mothers who are considering what to do with their baby in the womb. They want to provide pregnant women who are contemplating an abortion a better idea, life. And one of the ways they start this experience and this process is with an ultrasound. Because when mom meets her unborn baby via ultrasound, sees the movement within her, hears the heartbeat, makes all the difference. And if she was contemplating an abortion, so often that emotional connection from that ultrasound is enough to lead mom to decide for life. For just $28, you can help save the life of an unborn child. 100% of your donation goes towards saving lives. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby from your phone. Dial pound 250, say the word baby, or go to preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn. Yeah, it was a particularly tough closing week here for the Biden team. Scott Jennings over at CNN, I think, said it very well. What is the real legacy of Bidenism at this point? Bringing back Trump.
I think the way he's leaving office has been, frankly, pretty terrible. He's going to be remembered for a few things. But politically, it's mostly for when he was vice president, he and Obama sort of ushering in the Trump era initially. And then as he's leaving office as president, bringing back Trump and Trumpism stronger and more popular than ever. Today, Biden has like a 61% disapproval, and Trump is over a 50% approval and more popular, and his ideology is more popular than it's ever been. If everything you say is true, the Democrats should have had no trouble getting reelected in this election, yet they were.
It's an issue of a communications failure.
I know, and for Democrats, it's always been about communication and no introspection about the policies that led to him leaving office as one of the most unpopular presidents. When I watch this tonight, I remain astonished that he, his family, and other people around him thought he could ever run for another term. I mean, there's no way he could serve another 6 months, let alone another 4 years. The fact that they pursued that farce for as long as they did, to me, remains one of the most astonishing things about this term.
Trump is more powerful, has more momentum, has social media barons now coming to his side, something that would have been unthinkable of just a few years ago, or at least was not thought of by many people. And he has better numbers, popularity numbers than he's had before. I mean, it is the most amazing comeback story in the history of American politics. I don't know what else could even compete with it. To go from, they raided his home at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI was used to raid his home. And this is what ends up happening. Donald Trump becomes president, manages to run through all the roadblocks and ambushes and everything else, and it is setting up for what I think could be an incredibly consequential and important presidency. It's an unbelievable story, and it's remarkable also that he's really managed the full defeat of, at least temporary defeat, of the media. I mean, the Washington Post now is saying news for all Americans. They're moving away from democracy dies in darkness as their slogan. Why is that happening? Because they turned into a left-wing activist organization of loons, and it wasn't working, and they had to figure something else out. And Jeff Bezos decided he didn't want the inmates running the asylum completely anymore at the Washington Post, which exists by his leave, by his generosity. And so, yeah, Trump shattered CNN, shattered the Washington Post, New York Times, a figment, a fraction of what it used to be. And this is all because they went all in against Trump, and it just did not work. Truly, his endurance and his desire for the fight is just superhuman. It would have crushed so many other people. What has gone on here would have absolutely crushed so many other people, and yet Trump, it really almost inspires him to fight harder when they fight dirtier. You know, the dirtier they got, the more committed he was. It's amazing when you think about it. And now we're at the end of Biden. I mean, I think I have really no sympathy for Biden as a public figure. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think that he cares about the country in any meaningful way. I think it's always been about him and his family. I think he's corrupt. I think he's a criminal. I think that he is not very bright. I think he has no morals. I think that he'll do absolutely and say absolutely anything. And if that ever sounds too harsh, I'm just reminded of the fact that Biden was the biggest voice with the biggest megaphone for fire people who won't get the COVID vaccine, basically. You know, they're creating a winter of death, and the divisiveness in that moment, and to do that to people. And he was wrong, of course. COVID vaccine was practically worthless. He was wrong. And yet this was the attitude that he took. Never apologized for it. I think he's a jerk and he's a bad person. I really truly believe that. I don't think that Joe Biden, I don't think there's anything admirable about him, and maybe loyalty to family members, you know, even the most degenerate family members. But his presidency was truly a failure. I cannot say that the Obama administration, which went on obviously for 8 years, not 4, but I can't tell you that that was a failure from the perspective of a Democrat. Got Obamacare through. There was a lot of leftward movement, a lot of radicalizing of the country toward the left that occurred. It was a big lurch to the left under Obama, pushed in a whole bunch of ways. The weaponization of government really started under him. There's a lot of reasons to say, if you're a Democrat, Obama managed to get some important things done that they wanted done. Bad for the country, yes, but that's my opinion. They like what he did. Biden was a joke. Couldn't get anything done. Never should have been president. And I think the good news here is that the justice that will come from this is that Biden is the guy who set up an incredible term for Trump. And that's really what's bringing this whole thing full circle. So, I grew up in New York City, and everybody was in finance around me. A dad on Wall Street. I had brothers who worked on Wall Street. So many of my classmates and friends, their parents, they themselves went to work on Wall Street. Investing is really hard, though. You got to know where to get good information. Got to find the right tools, the right research. And Mark Chaikin is somebody who provides great insight. His company, Chaikin Analytics, for example, is doing great work. He's a 50-year Wall Street vet. He built an indicator that's in nearly every trading terminal to this day, and there's nearly 1 million people using his tools. Right now, his systems are signaling a big shift in the AI markets. Mark is stepping forward to explain what's happening. He's got a free briefing for you at stocks2025.com. If you've got money in the markets, you think you're safe from the AI bubble, think again. Go to stocks2025.com. That's stocks2025.com. .com. I know I mentioned this yesterday on the podcast. I think that TikTok is going to be saved. Biden is now saying he's going to work to save it. So, the Democrats and Biden, and unfortunately Republicans went along with it. They passed this law, and they create this problem where TikTok may be shut down. Now they're saying they're going to save it too. Isn't it interesting? It's at the end here where yours truly has been saying that shutting down TikTok is silly all along. I mean, I've been kind of on my own on this one, but I think I'm right. Trump now has decided he likes TikTok. I've been saying all along, TikTok is actually a really impressive platform with a lot of really good content. We need to work on their censorship and their anti-conservative bias, but I think that there's a lot of leverage to do that now. But just the fact that Biden here at the end, the hostages are going home because Trump is coming in. And TikTok might be saved at the last minute because Trump likes it. And it's just amazing to see, even before Trump is fully president, how different it is to have somebody who is a leader, who is effective, versus somebody who is just a puppet, effectively, of the advisors around him and the people who are actually making the decisions, which was true about Biden all along. And I said it all along. I do love that Biden is saying that he would have won, and Kamala is getting ticked off about this. Like Biden publicly saying he would have won the election if he had stayed in. I know it sounds crazy to a lot of you. I still think that he was even with the dementia, a stronger candidate than Kamala. Kamala was a uniquely awful national level candidate for office. She is not likable. She is not charming. She is not funny. She is not smart. She is not accomplished. Really, she represents everything that people resent about the DEI left-wing political trajectory of the Democrat Party. Everything they see there, that's just someone being advanced for superficial reasons and who, checks off certain boxes but has no actual skill set and doesn't bring anything meaningful to the table other than their identity and, their ethnicity, their gender, things like that. Kamala was a uniquely awful politician. And I still think that Joe Biden would have been, for a lot of people, in the middle, if you will, would have been a more palatable option than pulling the lever for Kamala Harris. Like, I could be wrong, but I just think it's funny that Kamala was mad about this because she wants to have a future political career, and I don't see how that can happen. She can't be the leader. If Kamala Harris is the nominee in 2028, Republicans are going they're going to win again. There's a number of Republicans who would win against Kamala Harris, and I would put a big bet on it. So to me that's a non-starter. Sponsors Bear Creek Arsenal. Bear Creek Arsenal manufactures fantastic firearms. I'm actually going to see some of them out at SHOT Show coming up next week. Well, the firearms, but also the folks behind the company, my friends from Bear Creek Arsenal. They provide these affordable, efficient, and value-based firearms for everyday Americans. That's their mission. Manufacture these products in North Carolina, and they want to have a direct relationship with you, their customer. So there's not big retail stores and a lot of extra expense. It's just you go on their website, pick what you want, goes to your FFL, you pick it up at the FFL, and you are good to go. I've got 4 of their firearms, and they're all fantastic. Bear Creek Arsenal is great. Go check them out online. Go to bearcreekarsenal.com. That's bearcreekarsenal.com. Don't forget to sign up for their newsletter. All right, that's the Buck Brief for today. Shields high.